So we have here today Mr. Carson Vincent Heady. Hi, Carson. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
give you. I'm good. I'm good. How about you? How's your day been?
So far, so good.
Thank you, Carson. Before we jump in, I want to give a brief synopsis about Carson and his career. So, Carson Vincent Heady has served in sales and leadership across Microsoft, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, as well as smaller firms spanning 25 years. He is the best-selling author of Salesman on Fire and the birth of a Salesman series. The latest installment being 2024's The Show Must Go On. He is regarded as the number one social seller in tech, having generated over $1 billion in revenue at Microsoft with a data driven Moneyball style social selling. Um, he has hosted over 300 podcast episodes of Salesman on Fire, mastering modern selling and connected teamwork, and has been interviewed over 100 times by many luminaries of sales. He has trained sales in 11 countries and written training for Microsoft and Dale Carnegie training. That sounds like a great feat of achievement.
Thank you.
Yes, he has created a Moneyball social selling demand generation process. Quite a wording out there. We will delve into it if time permits. Sounds a great social selling process, which has generated over $1 billion in revenue for Microsoft using LinkedIn and AI. Wow, interesting stuff that we've got on your career and your life, Carson, out there.
Thank you. I've been very fortunate.
Uh, um, I hope interesting viewers find something to take away and make it part of their life. So before we jump in, I want to emphasize on the fact that we are also going to touch upon certain amount of his career paths, lives, where there was pitfalls, failures, and how he overcame these obstacles within his personal life and also with clients, within organizations that he's worked. Amazing stuff. Before we jump in, I would like to tell all of you in the audience that feel free to drop your comments or questions in the comments, and as and when we get time, we will uh, ask these questions to our to Mr. Carson. Yeah, awesome. So right on. My first question is the turning point. Carson, your journey has been incredibly inspiring. Can you share a specific moment or experience that became a turning point for you, where you realized failure wasn't the end, but the beginning of something greater?
So, Dave, thanks again for having me. I think there's a few that jump out in my mind. Losing my job at what I thought was my peak when I lost my job at AT&T, and I went for over a year actually looking for my next role. Um, it's very humbling. That was when I realized the importance of network because I didn't have any. I thought taking my director of sales experience and my results, I could go anywhere, and I was dead wrong. I applied to over 1,600 jobs during that year, and ended up taking a role a year later, making half of what I made before. Fortunately, I wrote a book during that time, got it published the old-fashioned way, messaged 958 agents and publishers, and got it published. But that was actually what got my resume noticed for my next role. And I got laid off from that role within another year. And it was very challenging. That actually, however, I made a relationship there that led me ultimately to Microsoft. Furthermore, my first year as an account executive, I had a manager who didn't like me. And I was also doing very unorthodox things to go out and create customer relationships. I did not fall into the tried and true. A lot of times in technology, we become beholden to only the IT and procurement relationships. And I was going out to the board, the C levels, et cetera, on LinkedIn, creating conversations. And the results just didn't come fast enough. I got distracted. I was also taking on too much. And although that market had the best year that it had in 5 years, and we had the second best growth in the entire region, I got insufficient results and zero rewards, and I was 1 foot out the door. And very serendipitously, I wound up with a new skip level and a new manager the following fiscal year, and won the biggest awards in the company and got 6 promotions in the coming years. So those humbling experiences really instilled in me the importance of network and relationships, but also resilience and hard work.
Wow. Resilience and hard work. And that brings us to the next one. So reframing failure. You've spoken about reframing failure as a catalyst for growth. Can you share a can you, how did you shift your mindset from seeing failure as a setback to viewing it as an opportunity?
Yeah. I'll build on what I said. And, there was a deal in my first year, and, we were set up to fail. I walked into a situation where the customer was already way down the path to go with a competitor. But I frankly had not gotten the training or, the support or help to pull this thing out of the weeds. So when it went awry, and sometimes people like to point fingers, all the fingers got pointed at me. So I wore the loss, right? But what it does is it helps you see around corners better the next time. It helps to eliminate your blind spots. And if you use a loss or a failure as a catalyst for change in yourself, you can see these blind spots better as time goes by. As I've grown and experience, with that, sometimes if you're open-minded and have a growth mindset, comes wisdom. And you get to a point in your life and in your career where you can easily look back, and while you don't want to live in the past, you definitely want to use the past as a teacher. And you want to you can't connect the dots forward. I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I can connect the dots backwards. I can understand exactly what led me here. I can understand, now when I see a set of situations or a set of parameters, I can look at each situation dispassionately and say, I've been here before, and I know what worked and what didn't work the last time. And it really helps you when you run into similar sets of circumstances. And even when you run into the unknown, it still helps you be a little bit more eyes wide open, because you know how you've handled ambiguous situations in the past and how they've panned out. So that is how failure and losing has helped me considerably in winning consistently.
Amazing. There are folks out here who would be in sales or various different parts of their career, looking for this two cents advice from you. What would you give them, an advice for someone who's struggling with this mindset shift?
Yeah, Dave, that's a good question. Look, I've gotten so much from sales. That's why I try to give back so much to sales. I met my wife in sales. I've gotten, the ability to be, have autonomy, be free, feed my family. I have everything I've ever wanted thanks to sales. And so I'm very passionate about this topic. And, if I were to just spell out 2 pieces of advice here, I'd say, your network is your net worth. That was instilled in me a long time ago by a mentor. And what that means is that, going out and finding people that are doing what you want to be doing, or people that are hiring for what you want to be doing, people that will understand and celebrate your unique superpowers and strengths that you bring to the table. Be intentional about understanding your why and your strengths and your superpowers, and how you can use them to elevate everyone else around you. See, I realized a long time ago that I was passionate about being a problem eliminator, going out and, my leadership was saying, hey, our biggest problem is we don't have enough relationships in the board and the C-suite. So I went out and got them, period. And then I figured out a way not only to do it, but to gamify it, and to also train everybody else in the world, in my organization, how to do it too. If you're intentional about those types of things, you can write your own ticket. You can do anything you want. The other is control the controllables. It's a piece of advice I got back in 2013 from a previous manager. And it was really all about, there's always a lot of noise out there. And sometimes your manager might be noise. Sometimes your peers might be noise. Sometimes the drama, the politics, all that stuff can be noise, and you've got to almost like see in the storm. And you're not always going to get good advice, is my point. And so, sometimes I've had managers bark at me, you need to go sell more of this, you need to go sell more of that. That's not helpful, right? What's helpful is to understand the why, understand how to put a process in place. Sales is all about people and process. That's it. And if you focus on the right people, you surround yourself with the right people, and you execute the right process, you can't help but be successful. I've never worried about a result or a number a day in my life. And I've missed goal one time ever in 25 years. And I can tell you exactly why that was. It was, but that's neither here nor there. My point is that if you subscribe fully to people and process methodology, you can't help but be successful over the long haul.
Awesome. Gamify, control the controllables. Interesting. Um, so that brings us to the next one, which is resilience in times of tough times. Life often throws curveballs, both personally and professionally, Carson. Can you share a time when you completely felt knocked down? How did you find the strength to get back up and keep moving forward?
Yeah. The biggest one that jumps out of my mind was after AT&T back in 2010. I lost a job at what I thought was going to be my peak. I used to get up in front of hundreds of salespeople every day and get standing ovations, and it was very Wolf of Wall Street like. And I thought I had made it. I thought I was doing all these right things. I was in kind of this boiler room call center, right? What was interesting to me was what I realized afterwards was that I was completely alone. These people that had worshipped me because they wanted me to promote them, they were nowhere. They were nowhere to be found. They wouldn't even take my phone call. And so I was very, very alone. I didn't have anyone in my life. There was a scant few people that I could still lean on to a degree, and obviously my parents. But I was very alone during that time, and it was humbling, it was humiliating, and it was hard. And it was like going through that crucible made me realize that there was only one way that I was going to get back to that feeling of mattering, that feeling of making a difference, and it was going to be me making it happen. And I've always been very intentional about my goals and my bucket lists. And I wanted to write a book. I used the time wisely and did it. And ultimately, as I mentioned, that's what got me into my next role. So those types of things made a difference. And once I got back into the workforce, for me, it was all about getting back to where I felt like I could surpass where I was. And that took several years. It took several years for me to feel like I was surpassing where I had been. So that memory, that pain was very prevalent in my mind for, I would say, probably 6 years. And then finally I far surpassed it. That was 15 years ago now. So I can definitely understand how sometimes pain, personal pain, professional pain can be very prevalent in your life. But also it's not forever. It is temporary. And if you can learn from it, these things can matter a great deal.
Yeah, interesting. So there's a saying or a thought process that when you have you are immersed in negativity, or in times of trouble, look at the positive bank balance. And did you have any sort of experience like that, where you pulled out some shoelace tying moment, and then from there you build up your success moments, and then keep recreating it, and then made it a success in the present moment?
Yeah, I think there's a big element of that. There was, frankly, when things aren't going well for me personally, I have a tendency of throwing myself into what I can control. I can control the effort that I bring to my role. I can control the passion, the energy, the enthusiasm. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there were still days where I was not feeling it, but you just put one foot in front of the next. You land the step in front of you, and if you do that enough times, it'll catch on. You'll get the momentum. It's kind of like when I get up in the morning and I don't feel like running. I just start walking and start a trot, and then I'm into it. Right? It's just you have to go through the motions sometimes and get there. And fortunately, I've always been able to find my rhythm.
Interesting, very interesting. Yeah. Um, Balancing personal and professional struggles. Many people struggle to balance personal and professional challenges. How did you manage to navigate both simultaneously, and what strategies helped you stay focused and resilient?
Anybody who pretends to have a great answer to that is a liar, because it's such a challenge, right? I mean, there's always at the beginning of the year, I did an exercise with my team, and one of my leaders that I respect greatly brought kind of this wheel of priorities. It was kind of this wheel of balance, and you bring some of the different, like your family, your hobbies, your different passions, your career, and it's where would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10? In the like where they are, like the quality of that element of your life at any given moment. And it's practically impossible. The point of the exercise is practically impossible, if not impossible, to be at a 10 in all of them, because no matter what, I may work long. I may have a big project and then I miss out on time with my family, or vice versa. If I have to unplug from the business to tend to family, it could throw things out of balance. And furthermore, the more time that you go by, I'm married with 3 kids. I have a full-time job. I write books. I do a lot of things, host podcasts. It's very challenging to do all of these things at the same time. It takes some intentionality, but some of your hobbies might go by the wayside. I haven't played golf in years. I don't get to do some of the things that I really enjoy doing, but you have to prioritize. You have to be intentional. You have to apply discipline to your scheduling, and invest in your priorities. That's the best advice I can give. It's not always perfect. It's not ever going to be perfect. Perfect balance would be stepping on the scale and it's saying 0. And it definitely doesn't. So, things are always going to be in flux. It's important that you're intentional about where you're investing your passion and your time.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something which I've heard from many C-suite leaders. You got to give and take and balance it all, and move ahead. Yeah, flux is a state of procedure in your life when you are striving to become a success, and goal striving mechanism. Um, the role of support systems, Carson. Behind every successful person, there is a strong support system. Who were the people or resources that helped you during your toughest times, and how did they contribute to your journey?
Yeah. I look back at many of the times that I've talked about today, and, constant people that have been in my corner include my wife, my parents, family. I would say there are mentors and people that have meant a lot, that have sometimes given me the tough, constructive feedback as well. I don't need to be fluffed up or puffed up. That stuff doesn't help me get better. And in particular, the person that wound up after my toughest year as an account executive, the person who ended up being my skip level, who was ultimately my boss and my best manager that I've ever had. She was somebody who was always able to give me the right feedback at any given moment. She'd be very clear about, what got you here isn't going to get you to the next level. And, who and how I needed to work on, relationships within the organization, the investments that I needed to make personally and professionally in the organization to get where I wanted to go. And so those people really stand out to me.
Awesome. Yeah, those are some things which I can resonate with. You're only as good as your last number or the last quarter, uh, for a sales guy to hear.
Yeah.
So Carson, I'd wanted to also understand, from um, a mid-career sales or operations or finance marketing professional, uh, what are the couple of things that you think he should do outside of his work life that would enrich him? Or
Wow. Yeah, it's a good one. And I love that you called me mid-career, because I agree, man. I got a lot more years ahead of me. I think it's really important to just build a foundation for being the best version of you. it's so easy in work and in sales to get down, to take the rejection personally, to not we're in this immediate gratification society, and it's very challenging sometimes. Like there's nothing immediate about sales, right? It's you have to invest, you have to nurture over time. It's all a relationships game, and so outside of work, when I'm thinking about like how do I build the best foundation for being the best version of me every day. I'm up early. I'm in the gym. That's where I get my best ideas. I try to apply discipline in my scheduling. If there's things that I need to move around, I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I read constantly. I usually have like 4 books going at the same time. Whether it's Kindle, Audible, paperback, whatever it is. And so that stuff really helps me a great deal. Just always reading, always learning. And it's funny because I look back in my 20s when I was cocky or arrogant enough to think that I didn't need any training or coaching whatsoever. And I thought I knew everything there was to know about sales, which I didn't. I look back and I didn't think that I needed to read or, sharpen my axe, as it were. But now I love it. There's nothing better than soaking in all of this wisdom and knowledge and just different perspectives, different ways of looking at things. And I apply these lessons literally daily. I'll bring these to my team calls. I do a team call on Monday for, all 70 people that support my business. And we have a section called "What Are You Learning?" And it's really all about like, let's talk about like, did you take in a podcast? Are you reading a book? Did you come across a resource over the last week that you want to share with the team? You just always have to be out there sharpening your axe. And then lastly, but most importantly, is making sure that you're investing in the things that are going to fuel you outside of work, being with family, having experiences, those things are so important.
Interesting. Which do you read?
All the time.
Great. So, which is the book that you're the last one that you read or currently reading?
Yeah. So right now I've got a few going. So one is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I love his stuff, and I had never read that book. Another one that I'm reading is called Secure Love by Julie Manano, and it's a relationship book. I'm reading it with my wife, and it's really just all about how to meet your spouse where they are, how to be better in the inevitable negative cycles that you have in relationships. Let's see. One of the other ones that I'm reading is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Very much the taking a stoic philosophy to situations, realizing that in the grand scheme of things, we live for a very brief fraction of time, but we were put on earth for very specific, important reasons. So live your purpose, live your why, but don't take anything too super seriously. Because the reality is it'll all be gone tomorrow, and just be a good person. So those are definitely helping shape my 2025.
Awesome. Yeah. Overcoming self-doubt. Self-doubt can be paralyzing for many. Some of them, they get stuck after meeting with a failure. How did you overcome self-doubt and regain confidence in yourself and your abilities? And saying that was just a stop at a train station.
Yeah, I don't know that I have. I don't know that I've ever overcome self-doubt. I think there's a healthy amount of self-doubt that is helpful, because imposter syndrome is normal, and if you don't have it, then you're probably not pushing your limits. I had a lot of self-doubt growing up. I didn't always fit in. I skipped a grade and was around people that middle of my time in school that I didn't grow up with. I wasn't on the same sports teams with, so I never really felt like I fit in. And I carried that with me for a long, long time. I handled it differently in my teens and 20s, where I tried to just kind of stuff all my doubt down and just almost like shut off my brain, shut off my emotions. And that helped me a long time, right? I mean, it helped me when I was in my 20s and coming up as a seller, and it really helped me to throw myself into my career, but it was not good for relationships. And so as I got older and wiser, hopefully, really figuring out the importance of, it's okay to have self-doubt. It's okay to have nerves. Nerves mean you care. And, I still have imposter syndrome all the time. I can't believe that I, who am just a small town kid from the Midwest United States, is training and coaching people globally at the greatest company in the world, and has won every award I've ever set out to win. And I've just been so fortunate. So I think there's always going to be a lingering element of self doubt, but you also want to keep pushing your limits and keep throwing yourself into new experiences and new situations because they're going to make you better. So it's okay to be doubtful of yourself. Just don't let it hold you back from doing what you know to be right.
Great. Your favorite holiday destination, Carson?
Oh, wow. Well, when I think of holiday destinations, probably just really anywhere warm. Yeah, I've been to some good ones: Mexico, Florida, California. Um, and I had a phenomenal time this past year on a cruise and to Disney with my family. So, I'm all about making memories. I think you can make memories anywhere, but anywhere warm.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you cook?
It's been a while, so I can and I do, but my wife is far superior. So why in the world would I cook if she's better? So that would be like if I went out. I enjoy playing golf, but if I played with Phil Mickelson, I'd probably be okay being a caddy.
You bet. Yeah, you bet. Ernie Els, Phil Mickelson.
Oh yeah, those are the greats. So like my wife's a great cook. So why in the world would I, try to
even try
anybody from
outsmarting,
cooking?
right?
Yeah, I gave that up.
Success redefined. Success means different things to different people, Carson. How has your definition of success evolved over time, especially after facing failures and challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. It does change. When I was younger, I was an only child, and for me, it was, I made a lot of mistakes, and I just took for granted a lot of things. And so for me, it was just, making my parents proud, and you know, quelling that feeling inside that I wasn't good enough around some of the people that I was around as a kid. Right. Um, as I got older, I got a taste for, don't get me wrong, money can be an element of success, and being able to do the things that you want to do, the financial freedom that it brings, and now feeding a family. But I think what it most means to me is making a difference. That's why it's so important to me. I enjoy winning, but for me, winning can also be like, having enough time to play a game with your kid at night, or getting time to watch a show with your spouse. There's all kinds of winning. So I think making a difference for people, whether it's in your household or it's in your world, though that is success for me. And I don't think that definition will change. I love the fact that I get to do what I get to do because I feel like I'm actually making a difference, even though sometimes I might be relatively small. It's very rewarding and fulfilling.
Interesting. How your thought process for success has changed. Um, Practical steps for growth for someone who's currently facing a major setback. What are the 2 to 3 immediate practical steps that he can or she can take today to start turning their situation around?
Yeah, I mean, first, you need to acknowledge the setback. Either, you need to give yourself the space to grieve, to feel it, to understand it, to analyze it, to do a post mortem on the situation. But it's also important to take a balcony view of the situation as well. You have a new playing field, so figure out what's your move and develop a strategy and a plan to move forward. Those types of things are super, super important. So if you've had a setback, acknowledge it, give yourself the space to grieve and accept it, but it's normal. It's not permanent, and there is a path forward. So take the time to regroup. Sometimes we don't have a lot of time to regroup. It's important not to be or to appear reactionary, but we want to acknowledge the new situation and move forward as best we can. You know what the next step should be. You just have to do it, and you have to conjure up the strength sometimes to do it.
Interesting. um, Message of hope. If you could go back and give one piece of advice to your younger self during a difficult time, what would it be?
Never quit.
Interesting. Never quit. And what message of hope would you like to give for all our audience or people in our circle?
that if you do the right things, you control what you can, the outcome will be the best it could be, and you'll be able to live without regrets. And that's what I try to live by every day. I can't control the outcome, um, but I can control the elements that I put in place, the effort that I bring, and every time, especially in sales, I always leave no stone unturned. There is no. I always like to say, my work begins when somebody tells me that can't be done, or that's impossible, or don't bother doing it. It can't be done. That's where my work begins. And I will turn over every stone, and I'll leave no stone unturned, and I will leave it all on the field every time. And I'll be able to look back and know that I did everything I could to achieve that goal, and I can live with that. And I think you can too. That's where you should strive to be in every pursuit you make.
100%. Thank you. Healer Buddy is an online marketplace to find virtual therapists in Canada. And we are geared specifically to address the challenges that three communities faced, which is veterans and their spouses, mothers with postpartum depression issues, parents with ADHD kids. If do you have any message for them, the audience, in that segments?
Yeah. Look, I know that there's a lot of challenges in this world, and they're inevitable. And I can relate personally and by proxy with family and those that I'm close to everything that you just outlined. So that is a very worthwhile cause, but at the same time, to the audience, you're not alone. Sometimes it's important to shrink our bubble when things get too overwhelming, and just to focus on the moment and realize we're okay, and that the people immediate to us are okay. Sometimes they're not okay, but and sometimes we're not okay. But it's there's also a lot to be said for finding the people that you can rely on and trust in those moments where you need help and support the most. And please do seek out those resources.
100%. Thank you, Carson. Thanks. It's been a wonderful time well spent having to understand how a failure could lead you to success, knocking off obstacles and overcoming failures. And the path that you have taken should be an inspiration for many at large. So we take a cue out of it, or multiple cues from here. Um, thanks so much. You have a fantastic rest of the day and a blessed day. Thank
You as
you.
well. Thanks, Dan.